Autumn, and it's the height of the job hunting season. All around the world, millions of new graduates are pouring out of colleges and onto the job market. But the global economic recession means academic qualifications are no longer any sort of guarantee they'll find work. In this special edition of Propeller TV's Business World, we'll be investigating the whole issue of graduate recruitment. What's the situation in different countries? How can applicants improve their chances? And what do employers want in an employee? Hello and welcome. I'm Nick Wood.
And I'm Kathleen Pan. In today's program, we will start here in London at a recruitment fair designed for graduates with Chinese skills. And then we'll be comparing employment opportunities elsewhere in the world. Later, we'll be joined in the studio by David Peckham, an expert on jobs market both in the UK and in China. And we'll also be getting inspired by some young entrepreneurs determined to create their own business opportunities.
This year in China, almost 7 million students have graduated from college, a vast number even for the world's most populous country. And every year, the numbers of graduates are increasing, and every year it's become harder for them to find work. So for those who can afford it, rather than looking for a job directly after graduation, there's a growing trend to study abroad to gain more qualifications and improve their job chances. A recent report showed that in the past 30 years, more than 2.5 million Chinese have studied overseas, making China the world's top source of foreign students.
While most Chinese students return home after getting a further degree, there are still some who want to stay and work in countries like the UK. But they then face fierce competition for jobs from local and other foreign graduates, as well as having to cope with visa restrictions. So where can they go for advice, and what chance do they have of finding work? Recently, a China skill recruitment fair was held in London, and Business World went along to hear top tips from employers for graduate job seekers.
In the UK, like elsewhere in the world, increasing interest in China means there is an ever-growing demand for people with Chinese-related skills. This recruitment fair reflected that trend. Organized by the Chopstick Club, a Sino-Anglo networking group, it was targeted towards the Chinese job market and held at the offices of Bloomberg. The Chopsticks Club was founded in 1993 by Rupert Hedgeworth, the publisher who created the China Rich List of the country's wealthiest individuals in his monthly Hurun report. Under its next directors, H.J. Coston and Teresa Booth, the London-based club has continued to grow and now provides a unique meeting place and networking opportunity for Chinese-related professionals.
We are a club that is very much 50% Chinese nationals, 50% British, and we are passionate about China. The club was founded really by a group of us graduates. When we finished studying Chinese, we wanted to stay abreast of changes in modern China. We wanted to keep in touch with each other when we moved to London. So it never started. The vision was never to be what this is today, which is a huge network of professionals all over China and over the UK who are passionate about China. But it was more just a small group of people. But through word of mouth, through reputation, through goodwill, we have become a very well respected and trusted group of individuals who are working across all the industry sectors and working in Chinese companies, wanting to work in companies that have a China strategy, and we do our best to support learning and development and understanding through our initiatives.
Part of the club is we have Mandarin lessons, so we help people learn to speak the language. We have speakers every month, so that gives people an opportunity to learn more about China. Our membership, and this is unique, it's 50% people from mainland China and 50% people from the UK or the rest of the world, which means you get proper integration, exchange. and it means you can make friends properly, not just on a business level, but on all levels.
This is our second Chopsticks Club China Skills recruitment event. We realised 2 years ago that China obviously was emerging more and more onto the world stage, and that not only Chinese companies but multinational companies and small enterprises need China-related skills in order to be able to build their business in China, but also to accommodate and to look after and service Chinese customers here in the UK. So we decided it would be a great initiative to stage one of these events, and we hoped for 180 job seekers and 12 companies, and we achieved the target number of companies, but this year our target was for 20 companies to participate and up to 300 job seekers, and I am convinced that we will achieve that level of job seekers. You can tell behind us in the room here how many people are here. Many of them are Chinese, responding to this great opportunity to meet companies face to face who really are building their brands and their businesses in China and wanting to attract more customers to the UK. So we really hope that this will become an annual event, and next year obviously we'll need to find a space that could accommodate more companies, but maybe next year it's 30 companies and 500 job seekers.
The companies had to be wanting people who could speak Mandarin. Some of them want other skills too, but the number one requirement was somebody could either speak Mandarin as a native speaker or had studied Mandarin at university. And you know, some of the jobs, obviously, it's only a native speaker who's Chinese who'd really be able to do that job.
There is no other fair that celebrates China-related skills, and the companies that have come here recognise that they have a need for, I use the term cultural dexterity, but that falls in line with their strategies and policies internally to employ people from different cultures with different backgrounds and skill sets and languages. And they recognise that China is a growing market, and they need to engage with people who understand that. And so it's a perfect marriage, this event, and we just hope for a win-win for everybody.
The event attracted hundreds of native Mandarin speakers, as well as non-Chinese nationals who had studied Mandarin. While the majority of the job seekers attending were new graduates, there were many experienced professionals there too, seeking advice and information.
I do international business studies as a degree, so I think this is a very good opportunity for me to come here and meet the potential employers that will be recruiting globally, so more international vacancies and more links with China, because I can speak both Mandarin and Cantonese. So I think that's my main objectives for the day, and I found it really, really useful. I do believe in myself in terms of securing a graduate job. I've already got a job already, so that is a one-year graduate intern. So I'm now just looking for opportunities beyond that, getting ahead really.
我现在有一个 internship 在 Aon 里边，在维也纳的 Aon， 不是这边伦敦的。我想让他帮我调过去，到了伦敦来。我觉得在英国中国人很多，而且中国人的职业，就是说很多中国人在一个很好的职业里边上班，比如说是在 financial analyst， 或者是accountants， 或者是 lawyer， 都有很多中国人。
More than 20 multinationals and Sino-Anglo companies attended the job fair, seeking to fill positions in China or the UK across a variety of sectors, including the media, law, engineering, telecommunications, aviation, and accountancy. The Chinese telecommunication company Huawei is one of the largest in the world, employing more than 150,000 people globally. It expects to increase its workforce by 700 in the next 5 years. And its communications director explained what Huawei looks for in its employees.
Well, Huawei has actually been in the UK now 12 years. And we employ nearly 900 people in the UK. We're working with every telecommunications network in the UK, and so actually the skills we're looking for are right across the whole sort of marketing, from finance, HR, engineering, sales, a whole range of skills, but they are highly skilled roles. Huawei as a business is that's led on innovation and meeting our customers' needs. So that's, we'd welcome, ultimately we're looking for people who share that or want to work for a business where 70% of our employees in the UK are recruited locally. We come from China, we are a Chinese business, but we're also an international business. And our job when we're recruiting and looking for people is looking to bring in the best talent and the person who suits that role the best. That's our job, whether they're Chinese, British, Mexican or whatever. Britain, the UK is well known for a very good higher education sector. A lot of people, not just from China, but from across Europe and North America and elsewhere in Asia and Africa, want to come and study in the UK. So I am sure that the UK universities are producing people with the right skills and the right attributes. But here you're looking for people who've done something extra beyond just their degree. What more do they bring? What more can they offer Huawei? A lot of this discussion today from all these British businesses here, Chinese businesses, and they're all saying the same thing. We compete in an international marketplace, and the competition for graduates and the best graduates is an international competition.
With the increase in the Chinese consumer market for luxury goods, there is a growing need for people with Mandarin skills. Selfridges, as one of the world's leading retailers, has a steady demand to find such staff to fill vacancies in both its sales department and the head office.
Well, obviously we have a huge international base of clients that we see regularly. We see them on an annual basis. So for us, we steer a lot of our business plan around the Chinese calendar to ensure that we're offering exactly what our Chinese customers are looking for at the right time of year. So for us, it's very important to be on point with what's going on in the Chinese market and to be able to relay the kind of products that our international customers want, which is why we're always looking for Cantonese and Mandarin speakers so that we can enhance the level of service that we give. We have a very high level of job seekers currently. They come from a diverse background. We see people who have both a very strong background in retail already, and sometimes they have just a very strong passion for fashion. And for us as a fashion retailer, those two are exciting prospects for us.
For other prospective employers, the huge number of suitably qualified applicants looking for work presents its own problems.
We're here today just to see what the talent is available to fill positions within our organization because we're growing very rapidly. Our culture is very international, so we like people coming from both Chinese and English-speaking backgrounds, but it's important to have an understanding in both languages. Some are very good and some are exceptional. Others, I think, need more development. The problem is the competition. Everybody coming here has the required education background, they have the required professional experience. What is going to get them noticed was what makes them different from everyone else and what they want to do. Because if I have 10 people with the same education background, I want the person who really wants the job, not just thinking like, okay, maybe I can do it. Yeah. Basically, my important thing is what makes them different and what is their passion.
Now the UK's immigration policy has been tightened. The problem facing Chinese graduates is not only the fierce competition. Without the guarantee of being able to obtain a work visa, there would be very little chance of them being able to stay on after graduation.
我们感觉到今天大部分的求职者呢，他们都是应届的毕业生，那么就是说，他们可能最近就是现在面临最大的问题就是说，如果需要留下来，找到一份长期的这种工作呢，他们首先面对的是签证的问题，那就目前来说呢，可能这个也是我们暂时没 就是说不能帮助他们解决的一个问题，所以呢，需要他们自行解决这个签证。
Alongside potential employers, there were headhunters at the recruitment fair too, on the lookout to find ideal employees for their Chinese clients.
I came here today to see which companies are hiring because I've been involved in China issues for about 10 years, and it's been very interesting to see how recruitment activities have moved away from the finance side into luxury goods, engineering, even media. And I think that's an interesting sign as to what the Chinese economy is doing and what impact it's having in the UK. As a headhunter, I noticed that in the middle management segment of the workforce in China, foreign employees were disappearing. Why? I think for a number of reasons. Firstly, the talent pool in China is maturing. There are better people there, and hiring managers are more aware of them for the roles that they need to perform, which are essentially domestic sales and marketing. And also that the social insurance law in China, which came in October 2010, now employers have to pay, depending on where you are, up to 50% of the base salary for foreigners, for expats. And that never happened before. So now if you're a hiring manager in China and you're looking at your HR spread, it becomes a financial question as to whether you bring in foreign talent.
The day also offered a variety of activities to help job seekers, including employment consultant Martin Archer's workshops.
We find that there's quite a big cultural difference between Chinese companies and international companies. So we find that generally Chinese companies are looking for people who will be hardworking and loyal. And when they're recruiting graduates, we find that they're looking for people who've graduated with a similar degree. So if you want to be an accountant, you've got an accountancy degree. Now this is very different in the UK, because in the UK or in international companies, often companies say you need to have a good degree, but what the subject is doesn't matter. Companies are looking for people with the right potential for the future. So in international companies, there's much more of a focus on training. So because for graduate schemes, they're wanting to take people on, help them develop their skills and build them up to be those future leaders. So in a Chinese company, you might have an interview and then get the job. But in an international company, they're not just going to say, you've got an accountancy degree, so therefore we'll take you on into an accountancy role. They're going to say, okay, you've got a good degree, but what we want to do is test you. We want to talk to you. We want to find out what you want in life, what you want in your career. We want to find out about you and what motivates you, what you like and what you don't like. And we want to find out what you're good at. So, are you good at working in teams? Are you good at making decisions? So to test for those things, of course, is a lot more complicated. So international companies generally have more interviews and different e-tray exercises and all sorts of different tests where they are looking for these different skills.
The recruitment fair was the perfect place for Chinese graduates to gather tips from experts on how to overcome cultural differences, sell themselves to potential employers, and generally improve their hopes of finding work.
If you're well prepared and you know what you want to say and how you can get your point across effectively, then that will be really good, a really positive way to enhance your career prospects and to find work.
You've got to think of yourself a little bit as a product. What are your unique selling points? What are you particularly good at? Focus on what you're good at. If you write well, that should be something you emphasize. If you're particularly well organized, that should be something you should, if you feel a very process-driven person, you should emphasize your strengths. Think of yourself as a product. Think of accentuating the positives. That's what you've got to do when you're looking for a job.
I personally, as an entrepreneur, I would suggest them, depending on who they are as people, what characters they are, take the dive and do something creative, be brave enough to set up on your own, do something genuinely interesting. Don't necessarily get a job just for a job's sake, because I believe, particularly in China, there is enough creative capital there to make amazing things happen.
My suggestion is find out what you want to do and go for it and be passionate about it. Being sort of unsure about what you want to do is going to make people forget about you.
So despite the sort of good advice available at the Chopsticks Club event, it seems it can still be a bit of a struggle for Chinese graduates who want to work abroad. But what about those who choose or have no choice but to stay at home? In the 10 years up to 2010, China more than doubled the number of university students to a staggering 31 million. Whilst it's obviously a good thing for China's development and economic growth to have a highly educated workforce, can the country actually provide enough job vacancies for its millions upon millions of graduates?
And of course, the situation is made even more difficult by China's current economic slowdown. As we mentioned earlier, 2013 has seen a record number of graduates, almost 7 million, but there has also been a drastic 15% drop in the number of jobs compared to last year. It's estimated that more than 7 out of 10 college graduates could be jobless. We take a look now at a report by our sister channel about the hardship experienced by some young job seekers hoping to find work in the big cities.
If you hadn't read their resumes, you wouldn't know that these are some of China's elite college graduates. Some are from outside Beijing, others are last year's graduates, no longer eligible to live in the school's dorms. They all face the same dilemma. They haven't found a job and can't afford a better place to live. Most refused to appear on camera. They didn't want their families to know their predicament.
There are only 2 bathrooms in this dorm. Every evening about 20 girls have to queue just to take a shower. It's terrible.
This bachelor degree certificate used to be a magic key for Chinese graduates to find a high-paid job. But here, it is just little more than a permission to rent a bed in a crowded job seekers' dormitory. As you can see, this is actually a 3-room apartment, but it's been divided into several beds. This is a shelter for over 20 youngsters looking for jobs. This year, more than 7 million Chinese students will graduate, the highest number in decades. 7 out of 10 have no job offer a month before graduation. In the past decade, the number of grads have nearly quadrupled. China's economy, while growing faster than most, hasn't been able to absorb the flood of job seekers.
Not just because there's more graduates. I think that the market in China has moved significantly from where it was last year. Last year there was more control over the GDP, there was more control over the growth, there's been more control recently over the exchange rates. Companies are being more cautious about their planning for 2013 when it comes to hiring.
As China's economy places heavier emphasis on revenues from consumer spending, GDP growth has fallen from almost double digits to around 7.7%. Every 1 percentage point drop translates into a loss of around 1 million jobs. Despite the odds, these students choose to stick it out.
I think young people should have the courage to face the difficulties, and I believe one day I will be successful.
One suit and an old umbrella are the sum of these students' worldly possessions as they rush between job fairs in Beijing. For them, there is but one choice: to keep on going, hoping that their next interview will be the one that launches their careers.
And it's not only the Chinese graduates who are struggling to find jobs. The impact of the global economic recession means it's a similar story the world over. And to get the full picture, graduate unemployment has to be seen in the context of the total number of young people without work. According to the International Labour Organization, there are almost 74 million unemployed 15 to 24-year-olds in the world today.
And to show the human face of such numbers, here's a roundup of this situation facing this year's graduates in the USA and in Ireland, in the second report from our sister channel.
College graduation is typically a time filled with hope and excitement. Lately, though, the feeling many American students have as they stand dressed in their cap and gown is one of dread as they look to a future burdened by student loan debt and underemployment. The notion that a college degree guarantees employment is being challenged. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, of the top 10 fastest growing occupations during the 2010 and 2020 decade, only 2 will require a college degree. And 4 of them don't even require a high school diploma. Health-related fields are expected to see the biggest increases.
The fastest growing and the jobs that are expected to increase numerically the most, the health aides and the personal care, those 2 jobs actually don't require education beyond high school. So if we even looked a little bit further of all the occupations that are expected to grow, a good chunk, maybe 2/3 or so of those jobs that are expected to grow require high school education or less.
Historically, during times of economic downturn, young workers experience disproportionate increases in unemployment. But Nobel laureate and university professor Dr. Gary Becker says college graduates are much better off than those without a degree.
I guarantee you, once we come out of the recession, the economy starts booming like it did before, college graduates will do quite well. Because the modern economy needs people with knowledge and skills and so on. Maybe more jobs are going to be created, you know, in low skill levels, but the high paying jobs are going to be people who command knowledge and skills.
Ended up getting 6 job offers.
I had 4 offers.
For the 2013 graduating class at the Colorado School of Mines, it's not a question of finding a job, but of which job to choose. The majority of students here study engineering, what Forbes magazine calls this year's top-earning degree, with an average starting salary of $63,000. Graduates can make even more money if they specialized in engineering fields related to the growing U.S. domestic energy market. In nearby Denver, this school is training students for a wide-open U.S. job market for software developers.
The job demand significantly outpaces the supply, such that there are many companies that are really almost suffocating because they can't hire anybody. If you put up a job listing for a developer, it might be 6 months before you have any serious application, despite great salaries, despite flexible work hours.
The first G School students will graduate this summer. Many of them came to the program with university education and professional experience under their belt already. But like this veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, they wanted skills that would get them good jobs fast.
This was the most intense training that I could undergo and has the quickest turnaround time.
At $20,000 for a 6-month course, the program isn't cheap. But it does come with a guarantee. Students will get their money back if they don't find a job making at least $60,000 within 3 months of graduating.
It's Wall Street versus Silicon Valley, with many analysts saying Silicon Valley is winning the war for talent. Stephanie Zhen came to Stanford believing she would major in economics or finance. She's now studying computer science and interning at Google this summer.
Wall Street was really attractive. Probably the decade before us. I do see myself after graduation going to work for a tech company. And I think that challenge is attractive because it means there's a potential, an opportunity for you out there to disrupt market.
Shiroy Desai heads Guild, which scours data for top tech talent. He says Wall Street is not only having to compete with Silicon Valley, but also many industries that are becoming more high-tech.
I was, on the East Coast, and I was talking to a CIO of one of the larger investment banks, and he was absolutely chagrined because they had recently lost a potential candidate to a retailer, and he just couldn't understand, how can that happen?
Desai says more than 300,000 software engineering jobs will be created in the U.S. in the next 2 years, but only 20,000 U.S. students graduate with computer science degrees each year.
Ireland is witnessing an epidemic similar to what it witnessed in the 1980s, mass immigration. 1 in 4 Irish families have seen a family member immigrate in the past 2 years. Many of these young, bright and highly educated graduates, battling with soaring youth unemployment rates and little job prospects. A recent survey conducted by the National Youth Council of Ireland on youth immigration found that half of the 18 to 24-year-olds living in Ireland have considered immigrating, keen to seek better work prospects.
Well, an awful lot of opportunity in Ireland at the minute is coming around the STEM subjects, so science and technology, engineering and maths. Those are the graduates that tend to stay longer in Ireland, but we're seeing a wider spread of graduates generally leaving the country because of the opportunities in terms of the money they can get, the pensions, the benefits they could accrue from those jobs elsewhere. It's just much more beneficial to them in the long run being outside of Ireland. So we're now seeing the best and brightest that we have got through our higher education system being exported for no other reason. They can't get the opportunity here.
Claire Cullen is one of the many graduates who left in search of work to Australia for 10 months and has now returned and found a job. She says that while her experience was good, the grass is not always greener abroad.
Myself, I think there's only one girl in my house, for example, who actually ended up in something anyway related to her degree. She had a science degree and she ended up in recruitment for science jobs. So I don't think that it's as easy to get degree-related work as it has been made out to be. It's easy to get work, just maybe not what you're actually looking for.
Trussed up in a cap and gown, you're waiting for the rest of your life to begin. Yes, it's college graduation, and you're hoping for some inspiring words from a respected business leader. George Marshall used his address to graduates at Harvard back in 1947 to announce the Marshall Plan for rebuilding Europe. Fast forward to 2013, and today's graduation speakers weren't quite so ambitious.
H equals S minus F. Happiness equals smiles minus frowns.
Nonetheless, they did also offer more personal advice on subjects ranging from climbing the career ladder to finding a life partner. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke urged Princeton seniors not to seek wealth for its own sake.
I'm not going to tell you that money doesn't matter, because you wouldn't believe me anyway. But if you're part of the lucky minority with the ability to choose, remember that money is a means and not an end.
A means to what, though? Melinda Gates thinks she knows, being perceived to be out of touch.
Now, some people assume that Bill and I are too rich to make a connection with somebody who's poor, even if we have the right intent. But I want to tell you that words like rich and poor, they don't define who we are.
And she says technology helps break down those barriers.
If you make the moral choice to connect deeply with others, then your computer, your phone, the internet, it makes it so much easier to do today.
The current CEO of Twitter ought to know what a career in tech can do. A former stand-up comedian, Dick Costolo, gave graduates at the University of Michigan a history lesson.
When I was your age, we didn't have the internet in our pants. We didn't even have the internet not in our pants. That's how bad it was. I know I sound like my grandfather right now. We didn't have teeth. There were no question marks, we just had words.
So, what have we learned? Maybe that happiness plus money plus technology equals a great commencement speech. Congratulations, class of 2013.
In part 2, there'll be more tips on ways to find work after graduation, and we will be looking at one aspect of the subject in detail, the Sino-Anglo job market, where we're joined by employment consultant David Peckham.
And we'll also be introducing you to some graduates in the UK who look set to become business high flyers of the future, and meeting one young entrepreneur who has already achieved success. Please join us again after the break.
Welcome back to part 2 of Business World, and we're joined now in the studio by David Peckham. He's director of Mandarin Consulting, a London-based employment consultancy. So David, let's start by hearing about what your company, Mandarin Consulting, does for Chinese graduates and Chinese job seekers.
Mandarin Consulting has two main sides to it, that we help with our career coaching program Chinese graduates from UK university in the UK, and with our Beijing office, Chinese graduates in China joining international companies in China. We also have a corporate side which deals with companies, and we help companies, Chinese companies, coming into the UK with cultural issues, and UK companies going into China or working on Chinese projects with an input of Chinese culture.
So for people out there at the moment, obviously we're still hearing about recession worldwide, not just here in the UK or Europe, but tell me a little bit about the UK job scene and how that's influencing the people you deal with.
Well, certainly the UK job scene has been tough over the past 5 or 6 years, but we certainly detect an improvement in the past 6 months or so. I believe that for graduates, and graduates are the people that we deal with, that the job scene has actually been quite buoyant even over that past 5-year period. Some sectors have suffered more than others, so investment banking has had a very rough time, but other sectors, some manufacturing companies have actually been recruiting people. My experience tells me that companies can't afford to stop their graduate recruitment, because when a recession ends and we swing out into growth again, the management structure is therefore just not there if they have not recruited the graduates who will be their future managers. So graduate recruitment has been fairly steady. For Chinese graduates in the UK, I believe from the statistics that I see that that has been growing fairly strongly over the past 5 years.
And we've seen those statistics on this programme, or we are seeing those on this programme, and that's really my next question. Is this influx, not necessarily a flood, but this influx, the growing numbers of interested Chinese graduates, is it influencing the market as it is now and will be over the next 5 years?
I think it certainly does influence the market, I think in 2 ways in particular. I think, first of all, Britain as a country doesn't export enough to China. And British companies can only export successfully to China if they have Chinese staff that not only understand China, but also understand Western working methods. That's the first thing. Secondly, companies are global, big companies are global. They look in the global fishing pool for talent. So they would not restrict themselves purely to the UK. It's such a small country. And so Chinese graduates who are recruited by big companies, I believe, are not taking jobs away from local people. It's purely on a talent basis.
It can still be a struggle, though, certainly. If we're not even talking about huge economies of scale, there is the competition, there's the language. I mean, based on your experience, for people who are watching out there, particularly if they're watching from China, thinking of coming here, what are your kind of top tips to overcome any difficulties they may have?
I think, first of all, many Chinese graduates purely do master's degrees in the UK, and when they go abroad they want a quick master's degree, which is a year's course generally in the UK. And I think they should take more out of that course. So there's always a tendency when they arrive in the UK to mix solely with Chinese people. Take the advantage of being out of China and take the opportunity to actually see something of the UK culture, UK countryside, and mix with UK people, certainly native-speaking English people. One of the key problems that Chinese graduates have is that their English is not strong enough to operate in the professional world. And of course, if you mix only with your own nationality while you're here doing your master's degree, you're not going to be capable of actually taking on a professional role when you graduate.
Okay, we looked there really at the UK market. Let's switch horizons now. Let's go quite a few thousand miles to the Chinese market. 2 questions really. What's it like for Chinese graduates themselves currently in China, and what's it like particularly for UK or European students?
An indication of the sort of level of competition for graduates in China is if one takes one of the big British FMCG companies. In the UK, they have something between 30 and 40 Chinese graduates for UK positions. So that's 30 or 40 graduates for each position. In China, they have 300. So that's almost 10 times the number of applicants. And the Chinese market for graduate job seekers is very fierce indeed. And that's another reason why Chinese graduates should look at joining international companies in the UK, one of the reasons.
So Looking at your expertise in both markets, just talk me through some of the differences in culture and work ethics or issues that the two sets of graduates, if you like, have to face.
Well, the issues are huge. The differences in culture are obviously huge, and it's not purely a language issue. It's actually an understanding of how things work in both cultures. Chinese graduates in China are applying for jobs which have very different requirements, generally speaking, if they're not international companies, than they would have in the UK. So some of the characteristics might be that they are looking for hard workers, they're looking for people to be loyal, obedient, these sorts of characteristics in a typical Chinese company. And if you go abroad to international companies, or even in China for international companies, they're looking for people who are good team members, people who can make decisions, people who actually question what's going on and question their boss, why are we doing it this way? That's very alien to the culture in China, where it tends to be fairly obsequious almost to management. And that is not something that will actually get you a job in an international company.
Let's get practical again. You talked about some of your top tips of almost getting through the door. Give me some details to finish off with, really about, once you're through the door, how are you expected to behave in the interview and to really impress a potential employer? And again, both horizons, please.
Yes. Well, I think in the UK, when I've spoken to big international companies and what they're looking for, I've actually asked them if there's one characteristic that you could have from a graduate, what would that be? And pretty well every company has said to me that the most important thing is that the graduate is enthusiastic and motivated to join our organisation. So that's one thing that will be tested rigorously. And the way that that's tested is that what is it that you know about us and why do you want to join us? And these are questions that inevitably are asked at every interview. So the tip is, do your research very well. By doing it well, this is not just a matter of looking at a computer screen, it's a matter of calling up the company, finding out about the company, and actually generating enthusiasm in yourself. So you actually say, I actually would like to join that company. I can feel what it would be like to work for that company, and I'm really enthusiastic about joining it. The candidates that generate that level of enthusiasm and go to an interview, they may fail on one or two other factors, competences or other things like that, but they often actually get a job offer. So preparation is the key, and enthusiasm, for the job that you're applying for is the other thing.
Okay, interesting. Plenty of passion.
Yes.
And a good research job, not just
Absolutely.
looking at the website.
No.
Well, it's been fascinating for me to hear that. Anyway, David Peckham of Mandarin Consulting, thank you very much for joining us on Business World. Thank you very much. But looking for jobs is not the only option graduates have to begin their careers. Some prefer to try to become their own bosses and to start their own businesses. It was such entrepreneurial spirit that was behind a recent competition between teams of British and Chinese graduates from UK universities, the 6th China-UK Entrepreneurship Challenge.
Held in London's Bank of China, the final round saw 4 teams pitch their business plan to compete for the judges' vote, a cash prize, and the all-important investment of venture capital. We were there to see which group had the winning idea.
This location in the heart of the city of London was an appropriate venue for the finals of a competition designed to encourage new business ventures between the UK and China. The annual challenge between competing university teams is supported by the British Council and the Confucius Institute. As the audience and judges gathered at the start of the event, there was a chance for these would-be entrepreneurs and high flyers of the future to give business world an outline of their projects.
At Sellplex, we're building the world's best tool to help sellers maximize their profits when they sell an item online by leveraging multiple platforms instead of just using one. So in simple terms, this might be, instead of you going and putting your product ad on one platform, you come to our platform, and we automate the process of uploading it to many in one go. Our tagline is upload once, sell everywhere.
我们的这个计划主要是提供一种最新的医疗的监控的系统，然后它采用了最新的这个计算机的视觉图像处理的技术。那么我们可以就是把比如说养老院或者是住家以及医疗的提供者，还有一些医疗紧急服务，比如说像救护车这样的东西把它连接起来。
BioBean is a green energy company which converts used coffee grounds into biodiesel and biomass pellets.
We have 3 revenue streams. Firstly, charging coffee shops for collecting, biomass pellet sales and biodiesel sales.
我们的产品是基于一个天然蔬菜，然后当然是高科技，通过特殊的加工和复配，然后这个产品呢，通过调理人体的肠胃，它的肠胃里边的这个菌群，从而达到平衡人体，增加免疫力。
Stakes were high for the rival finalists. The winner of the competition would receive a £3,000 cash prize and the investment needed to turn their business idea into a reality. As well as their presentations before the judges, the teams also shared with us their experience of taking part in the Entrepreneurship Challenge.
At Sellplex, we're building the world's best tool to help people maximize their profits when they sell an item online by leveraging multiple platforms instead of just one, saving them time and obviously making them money. So if you have a high-value item you want to sell, for example, let's take an automobile, and you want to sell it within a 30-day period, you can put it on a fixed price platform and have Sellplex decrement the price, let's say every 5 days by 2%. So after 25 days it's decreased, and if it hasn't sold, then you can have Sellplex automatically transition it to an auction-based website. So you can be sure within a 30-day period it sells for the most amount of money possible and as quickly as possible. Our pricing is very simple. Anything, we understand people don't like percentages and commissions and things like that. So anything under £25, we can charge 49 pence. Anything over £25, 99 pence. We effectively want to make selling online as easy as downloading an app.
We do a lot of automation. We focus on maximizing your profits by putting it on the right platform for a particular product rather than just upload management. And we have a big sort of focus on making the user interface really intuitive and user-friendly. I'm lucky enough to be on the MSc Technology Entrepreneurship program at University College London, and the whole focus is about trying different projects and trying to create global startups. So the idea came for Sellplex when I sort of suffered a problem myself of trying to sell an item online and thinking, how could this process be improved better? And while I'm on my MSc Technology Entrepreneurship course, I started looking into it deeper. I did my dissertation on it. I did a lot of customer development research, met with lots of people in the university who could provide advice and support, and then we entered the London's Entrepreneur Challenge, and we were one of the winners for that. And then UCL also held a Bright Ideas Award, where they actually invest in the best businesses coming out from the university, and we were fortunate enough to be provided with a convertible note investment. So that was the first stage into that, and now we're just progressing it forward and hopefully taking it to new heights. We're looking to secure our next round of funding. We're looking to expand the team. We're looking to go international, and China is going to be one of the main aspects of that. So initially learning and then progressing forward as fast as we possibly can. Globally, e-commerce market is a $4.2 trillion market, and there are some amazing things happening all over the world with new marketplaces, different dynamics being created, different platforms in certain geographies having exponential growth. As you know, like China is growing amazingly well in e-commerce, especially in the luxury market, and hopefully we want to ride that trend and be one of the first companies to help that develop. the whole presenting aspect, it's quite detailed and quite tense. We present for 15 minutes, which is quite a lot longer than you'd find at most other competitions. So you really go into a great amount of detail. But then even after that, there's another 15 minutes of questions and answers. So for 30 minutes, you're on the stage, validating your company, backing up your assumptions, looking into what you can fix and what you can progress. And the judges and the people in the audience are people from venture capital, people from leading industries, people from politics and government, so they can give you different perspectives to add value to your own way of thinking.
MediImage aims to provide automatic and unobtrusive health monitoring system which require no human interaction, can protect users' privacy to assist independent living for elder people in China.
This is exactly what our technology can do. We can remotely detect your heart rate and respiration rate. This is far better than conventional methods because, firstly, it is contactless and unobtrusive. We can monitor the elderly people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without even notice. So you don't even notice if there is a device monitoring your heart rate and respiration rate. So this technology, if combined with some other motion analysis and activity analysis techniques, we are able to come up with some very sophisticated systems that can classify different emergencies, such as stroke, heart attack, or falls. And we can also distinguish emergencies from daily normal activities like walking around or sitting down, something like this.
We are, as a startup, we are not capital intensive or need loads of upfront investment. The total overhead account probably 70% of the overall estimated cost, and the majority of money will spend on R&D, marketing, and sales.
短期来看，其实它是一个相对来说比较简单的系统。只要消费者购买了我们的摄像头，安装了我们的软件，那所有的信息都可以在患者的家里或者养老院的计算机上进行处理。从长期的来看呢，我们是希望我们的系统能够跟医院的信息系统整合，可以我们的信息自动的被医院接收到。
这个摄像头其实不是一般的摄像头，是一个深度的摄像头，因为要保护老年人的隐私嘛。
其实我们可以不叫摄像头，可以是一个感应器。因为他看到的不是我们一般的摄像头看到的我们的脸、我们的穿着，他看到的其实就是他并不能分辨出这是谁，或者这个人他具体在干什么。但是呢，他可以通过我们的算法，就是来监测到一些非常非常细微的一些东西，像心跳啊，还有你的呼吸的频率啊。所以就是它可以保护隐私，然后又特别的精确。然后我们这套系统，我觉得它最好的地方就在于，首先，在一些城市低收入的家庭，他们也负担得起，所以它并不是一个奢侈品。然后第二的话，就是跟现在市场上主流的相关产品比较起来，我们这种深度的这种影像可以更好的保护使用者的隐私。另外的话，它可以更加准确的、可靠的来观测到，比如说心脏病、中风、癫痫，我们都可以非常准确的及时反映出来。在现阶段的话，因为就历史数据表明，如果一个地区的人均的 GDP 在7000美元以上的时候，他们就是对健康的需求会非常的强烈。所以呢，在未来的5年以内，我们主要是针对中国的北上广深的，还有其他的一些1线城市。现在我们就是一个初级产品，我们大概就是5000人民币，它包括了就是硬件、软件整个的一套的服务。我觉得其实参加比赛也是帮助我们把我们的这个把我们具体的计划进行梳理的一个过程。我觉得就是 planning is everything。我觉得我们也希望这一次比赛呢，能够得到相关的评委的一些意见。然后可以帮助我们继续完善我们的计划，因为我们跟国内的一些风险投资公司或者天使基金有一些前期的接触，我们也希望大赛的名次呢，能够对他们来说是一个对我们项目的肯定，让他们更有兴趣，或者让他们觉得我们的这个商业计划书显得更加的靠谱。
Biobeam is the green energy company of the future. It converts used coffee grounds into both biodiesel and biomass briquettes, answering two pressing needs for both cheap, clean energy and responsible waste collection and disposal. Our revenue model is threefold, and we look to firstly charge for collection, and we'll undercut current collection fees by 50%. We look to sell biodiesel and also to sell the biomass pellets. We need £300,000 to we're going to source £300,000 worth of machinery from mainland China, and we're undertaking a feasibility study to setting up in Hong Kong through a franchisable business.
We'll target in London 1,100 chain coffee shops, and they on average produce 20 kilograms per day, which makes a total of 22 tons per day that we aim to collect by year 3. We'll subcontract and partner with an established waste collection company, so using their contacts and existing network and expertise to do that, so we don't do that ourselves. And they've told us, we've spoken to 3, and they've all agreed that working together would be a really great thing for them. And they've said 70 collections per van per day is entirely reasonable. And we also aim to undercut any rival waste collection companies in that process by 50%. That's due to our 3-stream revenue model, which Arthur mentioned. So in terms of our London financials, starting in late January, we aim to collect, this is year 3, we aim to collect 6.7 million tonnes per year. That generates us 1.6 million in biodiesel sales, 1.9 million in biomass pellet sales, and £800,000 in collection fees. This would generate a pre-tax net profit of 2.1 million. In terms of our marketing, there's a huge growing awareness of sustainability in China. We've looked at the Hong Kong government and recent laws they're bringing in, and they're responding very quickly and in a huge way. We'll market our biofuel as competitively priced and as an environmentally rewarding alternative to fossil fuels.
We basically got into the kind of green energy sector because of a kind of an interest in sustainability and in green tech, and that we've basically done a huge amount of research into that, and through it combined 2 pieces of innovative technology. And then from that we're looking to franchise the business and expand not only within Northern Europe but also beyond. We're particularly looking at the moment in terms of Hong Kong as a possible area to develop. As I'm sure you know, that Hong Kong is becoming a kind of consuming increasing amounts of coffee, and then we're looking to tap into that market and collect the waste there.
Surprisingly, the local Chinese are particularly interested in the coffee consumption. They've really begun to kind of embrace the cafe culture, and so we find that really exciting. All 4 teams have a really good set of ideas that are totally different ideas and seemingly totally plausible as well. And I think all of them are slightly renegade as well. So an idea that might sound a bit mad, but in actual fact you start working it out, and actually it's an incredible thing that could again maybe change parts of the world.
The product concept, everything in that green tablet, later on I will show you the sample, is from raw material of British green cabbage, okay? And then combined with seaweed and spinach, we're extracting the best quantity and content of vitamin K and of course other mineral. Combined with the traditional Chinese medical concept and functional food. So we are not a drug, we are food. Okay? And this interesting functional food is able to repair your oral ulcers, and of course regulating your internal flora. That strengthens your digestive system. And just tell you a little bit about our funding requirement. Currently, we got 60K from the Ministry of Science and Technology from China, and we aim to raise another 300,000 to support our goal to get where we want to be, because all our China partner is waiting for us to produce our product.
产品的中心位置就是把西方的营养学、中国的传统中医学，还有这个功能性食品组合成一个可爱的小药丸。 它可以解决所有跟我们消化系统有关的症状。我们小批量生产了几批了，然后我们也做了一些跟医院合作的社区型的测验，还有一些在美国、在英国、在中国都做了一些测验，所以才敢跟大家讲说它的效用，这不能乱说的嘛。那同时，因为我们的定位是健康食品，那我们要把它变成药品，我们有一段路要走。有一个数据很有趣，我们发现10年前健康食品市场在中国大概使用平均数啦不到30%，但是在过去3年，它几乎是到75%。就是说，每100个人当中有75个人在吃健康食品，可是他们吃的有没有用呢？我们不知道。那我们当然理解，在这个过程是很艰辛的。我们要怎么让市场接受我们的东西，是需要努力的，肯定的。
这就我们主要的参加这个竞赛，就是开拓市场。
其实有2个 M 啦，我们的目标当然是 exposure， 然后希望能够有 venture capital interest in our project。第2个目标其实很清楚，你知道我们的 panel 是学者、教授、科学家，还有真正的 venture capital 就是的成员啦。在我们的 panel 当中，这些人他们在审核一个项目，他们是很仔细的。有这些人给我们的更加好的建议跟方向，我们未来要走错路的机会会更少。
As the last presentation ended, it was time for the final part of the competition to begin, the judging by the panel of business experts. The judges withdrew to make their decision behind closed doors. Before the announcement of the winners, 2 of the judges gave their impressions of the standard of entries.
This afternoon we've been presented with 4 very interesting and differentiated proposals for the UK-China Entrepreneurship Challenge. All of the participants were incredibly professional, and all of the propositions were of incredibly high standard and very impressive.
I think the practicalities of delivering a business are often as important as the initial idea, and possibly some of us felt that people won or didn't win on the basis of how deliverable this is in the shorter term.
There were no losers today because all of you have benefited from the journey on this competition, and you will have better ideas for having put the effort into the process required of you to enter this competition. But for the first thing then, for the runners-up, there are 2 runners-up today, and the first runner-up is Cellplex. The other runner-up is to BioBee. And the national finalist second prize for the competition 2013 will go to MediImage. First prize, 2013 competition, will go to Boxer Bio.
Thank you. 得奖肯定很开心了，而且关键一个好产品让大家认识，为大家解决他的健康问题，所以就是 benefit everyone.
And now let's meet a young businessman who's turned his entrepreneurial dream into reality. Ning Li was born in China in the 1980s and came to study in France as a teenager. Still living in Paris by the time he was 24, he'd set up an online furniture company. It was a success.
Ning then sold the business to a major French furniture group and was able to launch a second venture, this time in the UK, becoming the co-founder and CEO of the online furniture store Made.com. At a seminar earlier this year in London, he shared the lessons he learned from his experience. We went along to the Synergy Innovation UK-China event to hear Ning Li's keynote address.
I've run 2 businesses before. My first one in France when I was 24 years old, so young and stupid. But we were lucky enough to raise a bunch of capital from venture capitalists, so private equity people who are very happily, betting their money on us, hoping for some good returns. So it was the first time we actually get hold of a lot of money, literally a lot. So we had a lot of people, 250 French people, elegant and arrogant. But I think the point is, the first time we actually get the project of running a company, we were so excited that we think driving a business is a matter of revenue. When I started my second business, the perspective changed a little bit. I wanted to build a brand that's sustainable, a brand that can be, among the very respectable company you've cited here, hopefully in a few years, and that's something that takes time. It's very difficult to innovate without the desire and the willingness to say, I want to build something that's valuable, not now, not today, not tomorrow, but in 5 years and 10 years. And that's how we start looking at how do we make a brand attractive to people? How do we invest in brand, be willing to be misunderstood for today or tomorrow, but in 3 to 5 years' time? So we think innovation is the key driver to build a brand. So the whole business of Made.com is built on innovation. For example, we look at the retailers for our competitors, say cash-rich retailers like John Lewis, IKEA, Habitat. They would think of their collections, so their products twice a year, pretty much inspired by fashion. Spring collection, autumn collection. Why? I don't know. We cannot compete on them on the infrastructure or sourcing infrastructure whatsoever, or people. The only thing we can compete with them is speed. So we decided to launch 2 collections of products per week. So instead of doing 2 collections per year, we do two new collections per week. Much smaller runs, but much quicker. I guess it's really from the entrepreneur's perspective, whether you're building value on a longer term or whether you're a businessman, you want to make money and you're going for tomorrow. So that's really right.
That's all from this edition of Business World. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to bringing you more programs on the issues that matter to you.
So please do get in touch if you have comments on today's topic or there's any other relevant subject that you'd like us to consider investigating.
Until the next time you join us on Propeller TV channel, Sky 189 and online.
It's goodbye from me.
And it's 再见 from me.